The massive doors of the tribunal station slid open with a sound like distant thunder. Ambassador Elena Kovacs stepped through, her boots clicking against the crystalline floor that stretched endlessly before her. The ceiling rose so high above that clouds formed near the top, and the walls seemed to pulse with a soft blue light that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. She had seen pictures, of course. Every human child learned about the Galactic Tribunal in school, but pictures could not capture the weight of this place. The station had existed for longer than human civilization. Some of the species who built it had been traveling between stars when humanity's ancestors were still learning to make fire. Ambassador Kovacs. The voice came from a translator device floating near her ear. She turned to see a creature that looked like it was made entirely of purple crystals, each face reflecting light in dizzying patterns. I am Arbiter Velkoth. The tribunal has been expecting you. Elena straightened her uniform. Behind her, the rest of Earth's diplomatic team stood silent. She could feel their nervousness. Humanity had been invited to join the galactic community only 50 years ago, after discovering faster-than-light travel. They were the youngest species here by millions of years, the newest children in a very old school. We are honored by the invitation, Elena said carefully. Invitation. Velkoth's crystals seemed to dim slightly. Yes, let us call it that. Something in those words made Elena's stomach tighten. The summons had arrived 3 months ago through official channels. It had been formal, polite, and completely unexpected. The message said only that humanity's presence was required at the tribunal for matters of galactic importance. No details. No explanation. They walked through corridors wide enough to fit a skyscraper lying on its side. Other beings passed them. Creatures of every imaginable shape. Some floated. Some skittered on dozens of legs. One looked like a living flame contained in a suit made of force fields. None of them looked at the human delegation. It felt deliberate. That, careful, ignoring. The council chamber took Elena's breath away despite her training. It was a sphere, perfectly round, with the floor only a small platform in the center. The walls curved away in all directions, and floating in the space around the platform were 12 massive thrones. Each throne was different, built for a different kind of body, a different kind of being, and in each throne sat a representative of the elder races. Ambassador Elena Kovacs of Earth, Velkoth's voice echoed through the chamber. You stand before the Galactic Tribunal to answer for the crimes of your species. The word hit like a physical blow. Crimes. I don't understand, Elena said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Humanity has violated no treaties. We have followed every regulation. You have violated the void laws, said another voice, this one deep and rumbling like an earthquake. Elena looked up to see a being that resembled a mountain of living stone. Your species has conducted unauthorized experiments with dimensional technology. You have torn holes in the fabric of space itself. Elena's mind raced. The void drive. Humanity's latest breakthrough in FTL technology. It worked by briefly pushing a ship into a parallel dimension where the laws of physics were slightly different, allowing for faster travel. Every test had been conducted in empty space, far from any inhabited systems. They had been so careful. The tests were conducted safely, Elena protested. No ships were lost. No damage was done. No damage you could see, Velkoth said. But the dimensions are not separate rooms, Ambassador. They are layers of the same reality. When you tear through from one to another, you create ripples, vibrations. We have detected these disturbances across half the galaxy. A third voice spoke, this one sounding like wind chimes. The void laws have existed for 7 million years. They were written after the progenitors nearly destroyed all life with their experiments. These laws are not suggestions, human. They are the foundation of galactic peace. Elena felt her team shifting behind her. She heard whispered translations, shocked breaths. This was worse than she had imagined. Much worse. If we have violated laws, we did so in ignorance. Elena said. We were never informed these laws existed. Provide us with the regulations, and humanity will comply immediately. It is too late for compliance, Velkoth said. Your species has demonstrated that it cannot be trusted with advanced technology. You have progressed too quickly. What took my people 10 million years to achieve, you accomplished in 2 centuries. This is not natural. It is not safe. The mountain being leaned forward. The tribunal has reached a decision. Humanity will be restricted to its home system. All FTL-capable ships will be impounded. Your species will remain in quarantine until such time as the tribunal determines you have matured sufficiently to join galactic civilization. This may take 10,000 years. Perhaps longer. Elena's blood turned to ice. 10,000 years. It was a prison sentence for her entire species. Every colony world cut off. Every ship grounded. Humanity locked in a box, while the rest of the galaxy moved on without them. You cannot do this, she said, and heard the desperation in her own voice. We are a young species. Yes. But we have rights. We have. An alarm shrieked through the chamber. Red lights flashed along the walls. Velkoth's crystals blazed bright with what might have been alarm. Impossible, the Arbiter whispered. There is a spatial anomaly forming. Something is coming through from the void. Elena looked up at the massive displays that materialized in the air. She saw readings she barely understood. But one thing was clear. Reality itself was tearing open just outside the station, and something was coming through. The alarm fell silent after 30 seconds. But the tension in the council chamber remained thick as smoke. Velkoth's crystalline form had stopped glowing, returning to its normal dim pulse. The other arbiters settled back into their thrones, though Elena noticed several of them kept glancing at the displays showing the space outside the station. A minor fluctuation, Velkoth announced. The station's shields have compensated. We will continue the proceedings. Elena wanted to argue that any spatial anomaly should be investigated immediately, but she had no standing here. She was the one on trial. The mountain being gestured, and new displays appeared in the air between them. Elena recognized star charts, sensor readings, and what looked like video footage from various sources. Let the record show evidence sequence 1. The being rumbled. Over the past 18 months, humanity has conducted 47 void drive tests. Each test created measurable distortions in local spacetime. Here, and here. Points of light appeared on the star chart, spreading out from Earth's territory like an infection. Those distortions were temporary, Elena said. They lasted less than 3 seconds each. 3 seconds in normal space, said the wind chime voice. But time flows differently between dimensions. What you perceive as 3 seconds may be experienced as hours, days, or years in adjacent realities. You have no way of knowing what damage you caused. A new being spoke, one that Elena had not heard before. It looked like a cluster of eyes, floating in a cloud of silver mist. The Queshi Collective wishes to submit testimony. 6 months ago, our meditation ships detected unusual vibrations in the dimensional substrate. Our seers became disturbed, experiencing visions of tears. In reality, this coincided exactly with Human Void Drive Test 23. Elena bit back her frustration. Meditation ships. Visions. This is not scientific evidence. The Queshi have been monitoring dimensional stability for 4 million years, Velkoth said coldly. I would trust their visions over human instruments that did not exist a year ago. More evidence followed. Species after species came forward with complaints. The Dranthians claimed human ships had violated their territorial space by emerging from void jumps too close to their borders. The Hexali said human radio transmissions were too loud, too aggressive, disturbing their commerce networks. The Yithmari simply stated that humans reproduced too quickly and consumed too many resources. Elena listened to it all and felt a growing anger beneath her diplomatic training. This was not really about void drives or dimensional ripples. This was about fear. The elder races were afraid of humanity's potential, of how quickly they learned and adapted. It was easier to lock humans away than to accept that the galaxy was changing. "If I may address the tribunal," Elena said during a pause in the testimony, "I notice that many of these complaints have nothing to do with the void laws. Fast reproduction, loud transmissions, rapid expansion. These are not crimes. These are simply what humanity is." "That is precisely the problem," Velkoth said. "You are too much. Too fast. Too loud. Too aggressive. The galactic order has been stable for millions of years. Your species threatens that stability simply by existing." "Then this is not a trial at all," Elena said. She kept her voice level, but let her words carry weight. "You have already decided our guilt. This is just a performance to justify your fear." The chamber went silent. Several arbiters shifted in their thrones. The mountain being's surface rippled like water. "You dare accuse this tribunal," the wind chime voice began. "I accuse you of nothing," Elena interrupted. "I simply observe the truth. Every species here was once young. Each of you explored, expanded, made mistakes, but now you are old, and you have forgotten what it means to be new. You see humanity's energy and call it recklessness. You see our curiosity and call it crime. You know nothing of what we have seen," Velkoth said, and for the first time Elena heard something like emotion in the translator's rendering. 7 million years ago, the progenitors believed as you do. They experimented without caution, explored without wisdom. They opened doors that should have remained closed, and they nearly destroyed everything. The displays changed, showing images that made Elena's breath catch. Shattered worlds, dead stars, vast regions of space where reality itself seemed to have broken, leaving behind only twisted, impossible geometries. "The progenitors are gone now," Velkoth continued. "They vanished into the very dimensions they were so eager to explore. But their legacy remains. The void laws exist because we know what happens when a species reaches too far, too fast. We will not allow that to happen again." Elena opened her mouth to respond, but the alarms shrieked again. This time they did not stop after 30 seconds. They grew louder, more urgent. The displays flickered and changed, showing the space outside the station. The spatial anomaly had returned. And this time, it was much, much larger. "Impossible." Velkoth's voice was barely audible over the alarms. "The readings show a Class 7 breach. That should not be possible. Our shields should prevent." The anomaly expanded, a tear in reality that looked like someone had taken a knife to the fabric of space itself. Through the tear, Elena could see something that hurt to look at. Colors that did not exist. Shapes that seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that made no geometric sense. And then something came through. They poured out of the breach like ants from a disturbed nest. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Ships, if they could be called ships. Each one looked organic, grown rather than built, with surfaces that shifted and changed as Elena watched. They did not fly so much as swim through space, moving in ways that ignored physics as she understood it. "The Catharn," whispered the Quishi representative, its eyes wide with terror. "The Void Dwellers. They have found us." The lead creatures opened fire, and Elena saw weapons that did not shoot projectiles or beams of energy. Instead, reality itself seemed to twist and bend around their targets. 2 tribunal patrol ships simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased, as if they had never been there at all. "All ships, defensive positions," Velkoth commanded. "Raise shields. Prepare to evacuate the station." But Elena could see the truth on the displays. The Elder Race's ships were scattering, fleeing in every direction. Their shields flickered and failed as Catharn weapons bypassed them through dimensional shifts. This was not a defense. It was a rout. The tribunal arbiters were rising from their thrones, floating toward the emergency exits. The session was over. Humanity's trial had become suddenly, terribly irrelevant. Elena's communicator buzzed, a voice she knew well. "Ambassador, this is Captain Chen on the Defiant Hope. We're detecting massive energy readings from your position. What's happening?" "Ask, what's happening?" Elena looked at the chaos unfolding around her. At the ancient species that had judged humanity, fleeing in panic from an enemy they could not fight. "Captain," she said quietly, "I think we're about to be needed." Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the displays with growing alarm. The ship floated in the neutral zone, 3,000 kilometers from the tribunal station as regulations required. Far enough to be respectful. Close enough to respond if needed. "Sir, the energy readings are off the scale," Lieutenant Park said from the sensor station. "Whatever's coming through that breach, it's using technology we've never seen before." Chen watched as the Ktharn ships continued to pour through the tier in space. The Defiant Hope's sensors counted 2,000, then 5,000, then stopped counting and just displayed an error message. There were too many to track. "Communications. Get me Ambassador Kovacs," Chen ordered. "All channels from the station are being jammed, sir. I'm only receiving automated distress signals on emergency frequencies." Chen's jaw tightened. Elena was in there, along with 20 other humans from Earth's diplomatic corps. The station was under attack, and he was stuck out here following rules that suddenly seemed very stupid. "Tactical assessment," he said. Commander Sarah Okonkwo looked up from her station. "Sir, tribunal ships are retreating on all vectors. Their shields are failing against whatever weapons those things are using. I'm reading complete destruction of at least 40 vessels in the last 2 minutes. And the station? Hull breaches on multiple decks. Internal sensors show reality distortions in the outer sections. Whatever those weapons do, they're not just destroying matter, they're changing it. Sections of the station are being shifted into other dimensions." Chen felt his hands curl into fists. 40 ships destroyed in 2 minutes. The elder races had commanded the galaxy for millions of years, and now they were running like frightened children from an enemy they clearly never expected to face. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission," communications said. "Audio only. Heavily encrypted. It's using an old Earth military code. Put it through." A voice crackled over the speakers, distorted by interference but recognizable. "Human ship, this is Ambassador Kovacs. We are sealed in the council chamber. The Ktharn have breached the outer hull. If you have any bright ideas, now would be a good time." Chen smiled despite the situation. Elena always had been good at keeping calm under pressure. "Ambassador, what can you tell me about these Ktharn?" There was a pause. Then, Elena's voice returned. "According to Vel Koth, they're void dwellers. Extra-dimensional beings. The void laws were created to prevent them from finding our reality. Apparently, all those dimensional ripples our void drives made, they acted like a beacon. We rang the dinner bell, Captain." Chen processed that. Humanity's experiments had drawn these things here. The tribunal had been right to be worried, just not in the way they thought. But guilt would have to wait. Right now, people needed help. "Understood. Hold tight, Ambassador. We're coming to get you." "Captain, you can't," Elena said urgently. "You'll be destroyed. You saw what they did to the tribunal ships. Our shields won't hold against dimensional weapons any better than theirs did." "Maybe," Chen said. "But we've got one advantage. We actually know how to fight." He cut the connection and turned to his crew. "Helm, plot a course to the station, maximum speed. Tactical, I want our experimental void shields online." Okonkwo's eyes widened. "Sir, those shields have never been tested in combat. They might not work at all." "Then today we find out." "Engineering, how long to charge the void drive?" The response came through his command console. 3 minutes, Captain." "But sir, activating the void drive this close to an active dimensional breach is insane." The interactions could save lives, Chen finished. 3 minutes. Make it 2. The defiant hopes surged forward, accelerating toward the station. Around them, tribunal ships continued their retreat, their elegant forms tumbling through space as they tried to escape the Catharn swarm. Several more vanished as Chen watched, simply ceasing to exist as dimensional weapons hit them. Void shields are online, Okonkwo reported. Power draw is massive. We'll only be able to maintain them for 20 minutes. Maybe less. Then we'd better be fast. Helm, evasive pattern, Delta 7. The ship began to weave and roll, moving in patterns that would make any tribunal captain dizzy. Human pilots had been training for combat since before they could walk upright. Every war, every battle, every hard lesson, learned in blood across thousands of years of history. The elder races had forgotten how to fight. Humanity never would. A Catharn ship noticed them and opened fire. Reality twisted around the defiant hope, trying to shift the ship into another dimension. But the void shields held, creating a bubble of stable space-time around the hull. The weapons splashed against the shields, like water against glass. It worked, Park shouted. The shields are holding. Don't celebrate yet, Chen said. We've got about 5,000 more of those things to worry about. Target their weapons systems and fire when ready. The Defiant Hope's railguns opened up, sending tungsten slugs downrange at a significant fraction of light speed. The Catharn ship twisted, but not fast enough. The rounds punched through its organic hull, and the ship shuddered and fell away. Target destroyed, Okonkwo reported with satisfaction. Apparently, they can bend reality, but they still don't like getting shot. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Broadcast that on all frequencies. Tell the tribunal ships that kinetic weapons are effective. Maybe we can organize a defense. But even as he gave the order, Chen knew it was probably too late. The Catharn had complete control of the space around the station. The tribunal ships that remained were in full retreat, and he could not blame them. They were scientists, diplomats, peacekeepers. They had not fought a real war in millions of years. Humanity had fought their last war only 80 years ago. We're approaching the station, Helm reported. Catharn ships are forming up to intercept. Charge the void drive, Chen ordered. Maximum power. Sir, if we activate it this close to the breach, I know. The ship's reactor surged, channeling massive amounts of energy into the void drive core. The bridge lights dimmed, and Chen felt a strange tingling in his teeth as reality began to bend around them. Drive charged and ready, engineering reported. Activate on my mark. Helm, plot a jump that takes us inside the station's damaged sections. We're going to phase through the Catharn blockade. Several crew members turned to look at him with expressions that suggested they thought their captain had lost his mind. Chen understood. What he was proposing was insane. But insane was what humans did best. Ambassador Kovacs, I hope you're ready for a rescue, he said into his communicator, because it's going to be loud. Then he gave the order that would either save them all or kill them instantly. Activate void drive. Now. Rever 1. I-4. With Mander. With 4-1. With 4-1. With 4-1. With 4-1. The Defiant Hope vanished from normal space, slipping sideways into a dimension where the laws of physics were just different enough to let them move through solid matter like ghosts. For 3 seconds, the ship existed in multiple realities at once. When they reappeared, they were inside the tribunal station, surrounded by Catharn, and the real fight was about to begin. The Defiant Hope materialized inside the tribunal station's main hangar bay, right between 2 Catharn ships that looked as surprised as alien void creatures could look. Chen did not give them time to recover. Fire everything, he ordered. Railguns, missiles, and laser batteries opened up at point-blank range. The Catharn ships twisted and writhed, trying to phase into other dimensions. But there was nowhere to go. Both vessels exploded in bursts of matter that looked wrong. pieces falling through multiple realities at once, before finally settling on being destroyed in this one. Hull integrity holding, Okonkwo reported. But we took some hits. Void shields are down to 60%. Drop the aft loading ramp, Chen said. Marines, you're up. In the ship's lower cargo bay, Lieutenant James Rodriguez led 2 squads of Marines toward the opening ramp. Each soldier wore combat armor equipped with portable void field generators, scaled-down versions of the ship's shields. They had trained for boarding actions, urban combat, and zero-gravity warfare. Now, they were about to add dimensional invaders to the list. Remember your training, Rodriguez said over the squad channel. These things can shift between dimensions, but they're still physical. That means they can be killed. Stay together, watch your fields, and keep moving. The ramp hit the hangar deck with a clang that echoed through the vast space. The Marines poured out in practiced formation, weapons ready. Catharn creatures were everywhere, some attacking the few remaining Tribunal defense drones, others simply tearing through bulkheads to reach deeper into the station. One of them noticed the Marines and charged. It looked like a cross between a spider and a squid, with too many limbs that bent in directions that hurt to watch. When it moved, it seemed to flicker, appearing and disappearing as it shifted rapidly between dimensions. Rodriguez waited until it was close, then activated his armor's void field generator. Reality stabilized around him, forcing the creature into a single dimension. It suddenly became solid, real, and vulnerable. "Light it up!" he shouted. 20 rifles opened fire. The Catharn creature shuddered under the impacts and fell. It tried to phase away, but the void fields held it in place until it stopped moving entirely. "That's how you do it," Rodriguez yelled. "Fields up, weapons hot. Move, move, move." The Marines advanced through the hangar, creating a bubble of stable reality wherever they went. More Catharn appeared, and more fell to disciplined human firepower. It was not elegant. It was not sophisticated. But it worked. On the bridge, Chen was coordinating with the handful of Tribunal ships that had found their courage. "This is Captain Chen to all remaining vessels. Human Marines are securing the station's interior. We need your ships to form a perimeter and keep the Catharn from bringing in reinforcements." A response came back, the voice shaky but determined. "This is Commander Thexali of the Heliost. We will assist. But Captain, we do not know how to fight like you do." "Then learn fast," Chen said. "Stay mobile. Don't let them surround you. Use kinetic weapons. They're most effective. And whatever you do, don't stop moving." He watched the displays as 5 Tribunal ships formed up around the Defiant Hope, creating a loose sphere of defensive fire. It was not much, but it was better than nothing. The Catharn swarm outside the station noticed the resistance and began to concentrate their forces. "Sir, we're detecting a massive energy buildup near the dimensional breach," Park said. "It looks like they're trying to stabilize it. If they succeed, this tear in reality could become permanent." Chen felt cold fear settle in his gut. A permanent breach would mean the Catharn could come through whenever they wanted, in whatever numbers they wanted. The galaxy would be finished. Where exactly is the stabilization equipment? According to the station's sensors, it's in Sector 7. That's where the Tribunal keeps their most advanced dimensional research labs. Of course it was. The Catharn were using humanity's technology against them. The irony would have been funny if it was not so terrible. "Rodriguez, this is Chen. I'm sending you coordinates. You need to reach Sector 7 and destroy whatever the Catharn are using to stabilize the breach." "Understood, sir," Rodriguez responded. "But I'm going to need a guide. This station is massive, and our maps are not detailed enough." A new voice broke into the channel, one Chen recognized. "Captain, this is Ambassador Kovacs. I have Arbiter Velkoth with me. He knows the station layout. We can guide your Marines. Ambassador, you should evacuate. This is a combat situation. With respect, Captain, everyone in this station is in a combat situation. We might as well be useful." Chen wanted to argue, but he knew that tone. Elena had made up her mind, and nothing short of a direct order would change it. And technically, he did not have the authority to give her direct orders. Fine. But stay behind the Marines and follow their instructions. Rodriguez, Ambassador Kovacs, and Arbiter Velkoth will guide you to Sector 7. Roger that, sir. Chen turned his attention back to the space battle developing outside the station. More tribunal ships had joined the defense, encouraged by humanity's example. They were learning, adapting their peacekeeping tactics into something that resembled actual combat doctrine. But the Catharn had numbers, and their dimensional weapons were still devastating whenever they connected. The Defiant Hope shuddered as a Catharn weapon hit the shields dead-on. Alarms blared. Void shields at 30%, Okonkwo reported. We can't take many more hits like that. Chen made a decision. Charge the void drive again. Full power. Sir, we don't have the power reserves for another jump. We're not jumping, Chen said. We're going to overload the core. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. A void drive overload would create a massive dimensional disruption. It might collapse the breach the Catharn were using, or it might make things catastrophically worse. There was no way to know without trying. Sir, if we overload the core, we'll have maybe 30 seconds to evacuate the ship. I know. That's why we're going to fly this ship directly into the breach. Set the core to overload, and get everyone into escape pods. If we time it right, the explosion will happen inside the breach itself. And, if we time it wrong? Chen smiled grimly. Then we'll have a very exciting few seconds before we cease to exist. Start preparing the evacuation. But not yet. First, we need to make sure our Marines complete their mission. In Sector 7, Rodriguez and his teams were fighting their way through corridors that twisted and warped as Catharn weapons damaged the station's dimensional stabilizers. Reality flickered around them like a bad video connection. One moment they were in a normal corridor. The next moment they were wading through what looked like solid light, or climbing over surfaces that existed in multiple places at once. This is insane, one Marine muttered. Welcome to First Contact, Rodriguez replied. Keep moving. Ahead. They could see their objective. The Tribunal's Dimensional Research Lab was a massive space filled with equipment that looked like it belonged in a fever dream. And in the center, surrounded by Catharn defenders, was a device that pulsed with energy that made Rodriguez's teeth ache. That's it. Velkoth's voice came through his helmet speakers. They are using our own stabilization matrix to hold the breach open. You must destroy it. Easier said than done, Rodriguez muttered. He counted at least 20k Tharn between them and the device. All right, Marines. Time to earn our pay. Void fields to maximum. Grenades first. Then we charge. Just like training. Except with tentacle monsters. From another dimension. Sir, that was not in our training, someone said. Then consider this an educational experience. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Grenades arced through the air, exploding in bursts of fire and shrapnel. The Catharn shrieked, sounds that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then the Marines charged. Void fields blazing, weapons firing, pushing through the alien defenders with nothing but courage and firepower. Rodriguez reached the stabilization matrix and slapped a demolition charge on its base. Fire in the hole. They ran. The explosion was not large, but it was effective. The matrix shattered, and the Catharn's grip on the breach weakened immediately. Chen, this is Rodriguez. Target destroyed. I hope you have a plan to close that breach, because we just made these things very angry. On my way, Chen responded. All hands, abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship. This is not a drill. The Defiant Hope turned toward the breach, engines blazing. The void drive building toward catastrophic overload. Behind it, escape pods launched like seeds from a flower, carrying the crew to safety. Chen sat alone on the bridge, hands steady on the controls, guiding his ship toward its final mission. He thought about Earth, about humanity, about the galaxy they were fighting to save. "This is Captain Marcus Chen," he said into the open channel. "To whoever finds this recording, humanity does not surrender, humanity does not quit, and humanity sure as hell does not let monsters win." The defiant hope entered the breach, and reality screamed. The void drive detonated in a burst of energy that existed in multiple dimensions at once. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the breach was filled with pure, unstable, dimensional force. The Catharn ships, caught in the blast, simply ceased to be, not destroyed but erased from every reality simultaneously. Then the breach began to collapse. It happened slowly at first, the edges of the tear pulling inward like water circling a drain. The remaining Catharn tried to retreat back through, but the dimensional pathways were closing too fast. Hundreds of them were caught halfway between realities, frozen in a state between existing and not existing, before the breach sealed completely and took them with it. Elena watched from the emergency shelter in the council chamber, surrounded by survivors from a dozen species. The displays showed the space outside the station, now empty except for debris and the scattered escape pods from the Defiant Hope. The Catharn were gone. The breach was closed, and humanity's flagship had sacrificed itself to save them all. "Is he alive?" she asked Velkoth. "Captain Chen?" The Arbiter's crystals pulsed with what might have been uncertainty. "Sensors. Detect his escape pod. It launched 3 seconds before the detonation. He survived." "Why?" Elena released a breath she had not realized she was holding. Around her, other beings were doing the same. The shelter was crowded with creatures from every corner of the galaxy, all of them united in the simple relief of still being alive. "The station's emergency systems are coming back online," one of the technicians reported. "Structural integrity is compromised in 17 sections, but the main hull is secure. We can begin evacuations." "No," Velkoth said. The word carried such weight that everyone turned to look at the Arbiter. "There will be no evacuation. The Tribunal will reconvene. Now." It took 3 hours to clear enough debris and stabilize the environment in the council chamber. When Elena returned to the central platform, she saw that several of the thrones were empty. Those Arbiters had fled and not returned, but the ones who remained looked different somehow. Less certain, less ancient. Velkoth stood in the center of the platform, not on a throne but on the floor with Elena and the other survivors. When he spoke, his voice was different through the translator. Softer, more human, in a way. 7 million years ago, the progenitors opened doors they could not close, he said. They unleashed the Catharn upon our reality. We, the younger species of that time, fought them. We drove them back. We sealed the breaches. And we swore that never again would anyone be allowed to experiment with dimensional technology. He paused, crystals dimming. But in our fear, we became rigid. We made laws so strict that they stifled innovation. We grew comfortable, safe, and weak. Today we learned the price of that weakness. The mountain being spoke next, its voice rumbling. Humanity broke our laws. They experimented with forces they did not understand. They did draw the Catharn here. But they also saved us. They fought when we could not remember how to fight. They sacrificed when we could only think of running. Elena felt something shift in the chamber. The other species were nodding, making gestures of agreement in their various ways. Even the ones who had argued most strongly for humanity's quarantine. Ambassador Kovacs, Velkoth said, the Tribunal owes your species an apology. We judged you for being young, for being different, for reminding us of our own failures. That judgment was unjust. Elena wanted to be gracious, to accept the apology with diplomatic poise, but she had just watched thousands die, had seen the galaxy's oldest civilizations scatter in panic, had nearly lost people she cared about. Poise felt less important than truth. Arbiter, humanity broke your laws because we did not know they existed. We were never invited to the discussions, never given access to the historical records. You isolated us, and then blamed us for not knowing what we could not have known. Velkoth's crystals flashed bright, then dim. You are correct. We withheld knowledge out of fear. We treated you as children to be protected, rather than as equals to be educated. This, too, was a failure. Elena felt her anger fading, replaced by something more constructive. That is why I have reconvened the tribunal, Velkoth said. Not to pass judgment, but to make an offer. Humanity, you have proven yourselves worthy, not just of joining the galactic community, but of helping to lead it. We formally invite Earth to take a seat on this council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The chamber was silent. Elena looked around at the assembled species, trying to read their alien expressions. Some looked pleased. Some looked uncertain. None looked hostile. There is more, the mountain being said. The Catharn were driven back today, but they know we are here now. They will return, in greater numbers, with better preparation. We need to be ready. We need humanity's innovation, your adaptability, your willingness to take risks. We need your void drive technology. And in return, Velkoth added, we offer you everything we have learned in millions of years. Our science, our history, our wisdom such as it is. We will hold nothing back, no more secrets, no more fear. Elena thought about what that meant. Humanity gaining access to technologies and knowledge that would advance them by millions of years. The elder races learning from humanity's energy and creativity. It was an exchange that would change the galaxy forever. I cannot speak for all of humanity, she said carefully. This decision is too important for one ambassador to make alone. I will need to consult with Earth's government. Megadha. I will need to consult with Earth's government. Of course, Velkoth said. Take whatever time you need. Though I hope you will tell them what I am about to tell you. He gestured, and new displays appeared showing the damaged sections of the station, the debris fields, the scars of the battle. Today, Captain Chen proved something we had forgotten. Courage matters. Sacrifice matters. Being willing to stand and fight when the alternative is to run and hide, that matters more than age or wisdom or ancient laws. The Arbiter's crystals pulsed with colors Elena had not seen before. My people have existed for 30 million years. We have seen galaxies born and die. But we had forgotten how to be brave. A human captain, from a species that has existed for less than a heartbeat in cosmic terms, reminded us. He gave everything to protect beings who had just threatened to imprison his entire species. That is not just courage. That is grace. Elena felt tears on her cheeks and did not bother to hide them. Captain Chen would say he was just doing his duty. Perhaps that is what makes humanity so remarkable, Velkoth said. You see grace and courage as duty, rather than as exceptional acts. You do not wait for heroes to save you. You choose to be heroes yourselves. Outside the station, rescue ships were gathering the escape pods. In one of them, Captain Marcus Chen watched the stars and thought about his ship, his crew, and the strange day that had turned humanity from defendants into defenders. His communicator buzzed with message after message from tribunal ships, thanking him, praising him, asking how they could learn to fight like humans did. He smiled and closed his eyes. When he got home, he would need to file one hell of a report. 2 months later, the tribunal reconvened under very different circumstances. The damaged sections of the station had been repaired, but the new construction incorporated human design elements. Efficient, practical, ready for war, if war came again. Elena stood on the chamber floor once more, but this time there was a 13th throne behind her. Smaller than the others, newer, made of materials from Earth, humanity's seat at the table. The tribunal recognizes Ambassador Elena Kovacs of Earth, Velkoth said formally. Welcome, as equals, to the galactic community. Elena took her seat and looked out at the assembled species. ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for longer than humanity could imagine. And now, they were allies, partners, friends. "Thank you," she said simply. "Now, shall we discuss how to prepare for the next Catharn attack? Because I have some ideas, and I think you're going to find them interesting." Velkoth's crystals pulsed with what Elena had learned to recognize as amusement. "Please, share your ideas. We are eager to learn." And in that moment, Elena knew the galaxy had truly changed. The elder races were no longer hiding behind old laws and ancient fears. They were adapting, growing, remembering what it meant to be alive rather than just old. Humanity had come to the tribunal as defendants facing imprisonment. They were leaving as equals, facing the future together. It was not the outcome anyone had expected. But then, humans had always been good at surprising people. Outside the station, work had begun on a new fleet, hybrid ships combining elder race technology with human innovation. Vessels designed not for peacekeeping but for defense, crewed by mixed species crews who trained together and learned from each other. The first ship of the new fleet was nearly complete. It was larger than the Defiant Hope had been, faster, more heavily armed, and it bore a name that honored the sacrifice that had brought the galaxy together. The TGNS Defiant Hope, second of her name, would launch within a month. Captain Marcus Chen would command her, with a crew drawn from 20 different species. The Catharn would return someday. Everyone knew that. The dimensional scars left by the battle suggested the Void Dwellers had not given up, merely retreated to plan their next attack. But when they came, they would not find the galaxy they had left behind. They would not find ancient species too comfortable to fight and too proud to adapt. They would find something new. Something that had not existed before that day at the tribunal. They would find unity, innovation, courage. They would find humanity, and the humanity that humans had awakened in others. And that, Elena thought as she looked out at the stars from her new quarters on the station, would make all the difference.